Hi there, this is Athol, and this is an episode of Ask Athol Anything, and let's just jump to the question. And the question is, how can I get my husband to read your book? And the book that the lady in question is referring to is The Married Man's Sex Life Primer 2011, which is basically about how guys can become more attractive, actually take a little bit of a leadership role, become more assertive, more confident, and perhaps even a little more dominant in the bedroom, and basically court and woo their wives like they used to in the old days. So the question, how can I get my husband to read your book, is a sort of a common one. How can I get him to do all those things that you mentioned in the book? And it's a super common question, because what most women want with the book is to be able to pick up the book, throw it at their husband like a boomerang, and have it hit him, somewhere in the middle of his forehead, right between his eyes, and then suddenly have him transform into someone who's in shape, making a little more money, more attractive, more confident, happier, more horny, and basically seeking her out to have awesome sex and a great relationship. The problem is, the message of the primer is that if you want your partner to respond to you, then you have to become more attractive, you have to regain your personal power, and you have to be willing to leverage all that to get them paying greater attention to you and act more interested in you because you're more interesting to them. So there's this big disconnect in that a lot of women just read the book wanting it to be this magic bullet, when almost everything in the book can apply to women just as well as it can apply to men. So it's really a case of, if you want him to pay greater attention to you, you're going to have to gain greater attention. And you mentioned in your question that you're getting frustrated, and you're getting to the point where you're feeling like you're on the verge of a "I love you but I'm not in love with you" type statement. And in all honesty, that may actually be a requirement to get him to pay attention again, to break him out of his funk and realize something's really going on. What I suspect is you'll probably get a greater sense of understanding about what it is that you need to do if you read the second book that I wrote, The Mindful Attraction Plan, which is far more co-ed and is going to spell out those steps that you need to take to gain that attention. And the Mindful Attraction Plan being this one back here. The other thing you were asking, you sort of laid out in the question that you sent me, was that he was making no real sexual advances. You didn't think there was an affair. He was completely disinterested about reading a book that was going to get him laid more. He says he's not depressed. He doesn't really look after himself. Says he's way too busy, and basically spends most of his free time playing computer games. So I also suspect there's a possibility that it's not just he's not particularly interested in you or whatever it is. He may just be completely burnt out on game playing, have no particular dopamine response left for anyone or anything. And there's also the possibility he has low testosterone. And this is part of why he's basically disinterested in sex, because his hormones are just out of whack. So there's a few things why that could be a factor in terms of why he's not particularly responsive. But even then, if you're not sort of maximizing your own attractiveness, your own personal power, and running your own plan, he may not, you may need that in order to be able to leverage things to get him to fix the low T or dopamine burnout or whatever it is. So rather than seeing that book as this magic boomerang that you can throw at him, you have to look at yourself and say, I need to take a little more personal power. I'm going to have to do things to maximize my own attractiveness, and I really might need to do that "I love you but I'm not in love with you" speech in order to shock him out of the funk that he's in. And I'll have the links below for the books and everything that I mentioned. That's about it. Gonna leave it there until next time. If everyone can like, comment, share, subscribe, and all that good internet stuff, that would be wonderful. And I will catch you next time.